Huge mahalo to Auntie Joe for another amazing Coconut Wireless, but it's now 5:30 p.m. and time for a live public affairs program. I'm your coordinator, Tanya Horlick. Tonight we are live, featuring the board president of Affordable Homeless Housing Alternatives and Humboldt-County Supervising Planner, Michael Richardson. Because coming up quick here on Wednesday, January 26th, is the 2022 point-in-time count, which will be held thanks to local volunteers like Nezzie and the AHHA crew. So, Nezzie, do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi, Tanya. This is Nezzie. Thank you for calling me and having me on your program. It's nice to be here. I'm the president of the board for Affordable Homeless Housing Alternatives and very much involved with community engagement.
Thank you, Nezzie. And can you help explain what the point-in-time count does for our community?
Well, if people are unfamiliar with the point-in-time count, it's the Housing and Urban Development. It's required by HUD. If you have you receive money from the Housing and Urban Development, then you're required to have a continuum of care. Ours is the Housing and Homeless Coalition for Humboldt, which is made up of multiple providers of varying kinds of services that address homelessness or issues around homelessness. And HUD requires that we do this point-in-time count to get information on the homeless population in our area. Its purpose basically is to this is the results that we get as a community is called the community report, so that we get some understanding about what's going on with homelessness in our area. It's supposed to help us improve funding for homeless services, and also we meet the federal requirements for the data that they want us to report on. Also, we're supposed to get better data regarding who the individuals and families are that are experiencing homelessness in our communities, and then supposed to link that data collection effort to the national and local strategic programming and policy planning. That's the reason why they do it, and it's a count of both sheltered and unsheltered homeless. The sheltered homeless are folks that, in this particular count, the night before on the 25th, will be surveyed. They're people who will be at the Mission and Betty's Village. They're inside, but they are essentially homeless. And then the morning of the 26th, starting at 7 in the morning or so, teams will be deployed to different geographic areas of the county that have been predetermined, and teams of at least 2 will go out to those areas to do what's called the unsheltered count. And people that are, the definition of the unsheltered, I guess, is important. It's individuals or families that don't have a adequate nighttime residence, people that they don't have a home, they don't go to a fixed regular place every day, and usually these are people that have a public or a private place that isn't designed for sleeping accommodation. So there are specific definitions, but that's basically people who are in makeshift shelters or on the streets or in vehicles or parks, or they're maybe in abandoned buildings or encamped, or those kinds of arrangements. Those that are not included in the count would be people who are in jail or in hospital or detox centers, rehabilitation facilities, or mental health facilities. Usually people that are doubled up or staying with other people are not also counted either. I don't think the clean and sober houses are counted either. But anyway, there are deployment centers throughout the county from north to south where people will gather and then begin their count. And the count basically is there's 2 ways that it's being done. One is observed, and it's using a telephone application called Count Test, called the Blitz. If you are going around and just seeing people that appear to be homeless, but they might be sleeping, you don't want to disturb them or whatever, you could just simply observe and count them. But there is a survey on the application that asks you to, engage folks if you can, and ask them if they would be willing to take the survey and explain to them, why you're doing it and who you are. And everybody, in order to be a volunteer, has to go through a training. Generally, this one is online. There's a video that Robert Ward did from the county, who's sort of leading the charge here. But anyway, the idea is to count as many people as possible from 7 in the morning until noon, and from there get some information about families and youth and people experiencing homelessness who are answering. If they're answering the questions, there's information coming in about where they slept and if they have issues around being involved with drugs, or if they, what they're in, because they have any income, and those kinds of questions, to get a better idea of who's out there.
Yeah. Those that wish to register to volunteer tomorrow for the point in time count at 7 a.m. is when it starts, can still call staff to sign up at 211. So that's all you have to call if you want to volunteer for the point in time count, 211, and staff could sign you up. Or there's a website, which I can repeat again, folks, Humboldt.pointintime.info. Our other guest who's with us now is Humboldt County's Supervising Planner, Michael Richardson, who's joining us to also help address some of the long-standing needs for people in the community. And I want to see if we can let our listeners know how this point-in-time count information is used to allocate county resources. So, Michael, I'm so honored to have you with us. You are supervising the planning of Humboldt County, and we've talked previously about the zoning of areas, and it's great to have you on with me again. So thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
And do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners a little bit?
Sure. I'm with the long-range planning team within the Planning and Building Department, and we focus on things that are kind of more program-based. So we deal with changes to the zoning ordinances, changes to the general plan. We're implementing state laws a lot of the times, and so we're involved with a broad range of services that the county takes on, and it's largely through the general plan that we are kind of organizing the work that we do.
So I invited you to this conversation partly because of just that the general plan and the zoning that you've put out is trying to the best of my knowledge, establish areas for safe camping and safe parking to help address the houselessness, at times crisis, in areas of our community. Just today, as I was walking down the street, I ran into a woman I'd never met before who was asking me out her car window, do you know where there's any rentals? And she's in a car. There's many that don't even have that kind of property. So I really wonder if you could give us an update on what is the status for Humboldt County establishing these zones for safe camping and safe parking.
Yeah, we are. We're confronting the housing crisis that Humboldt County faces on a number of levels. On one level, we are doing everything we can to increase the permitting of housing so that there's more supply there. But then we're also taking a look at how to address the needs of those experiencing homelessness. And, I've been working with Nezzie trying to figure this out for many years. And one of the things that we decided this a while back, is that there's there's really a need for the county to identify areas where people can park overnight and just not be hassled, and these areas would have basic services, restroom facilities and places to wash your hands at least, and they'd be safe, and the law enforcement would know about them, and they would be supportive of people using these facilities. And part of the thinking here is that with this organized providing of services in this organized manner, we're going to be more efficient and able to reach more people with the limited resources that we have. And so we kind of designed this program in a very conceptual way to just address those that needed a place to park. And we approached the Board of Supervisors with this back in 2019, and they gave us the thumbs up, which was a big step forward for us. And so now we are in the process of taking action, or having the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors take action to actually make changes to the county's development codes to allow for these safe parking facilities. And we've come to learn that, some people don't even have cars that need a place to sleep as well. And so we're expanding the scope of these ordinance amendments to also address the needs of those experiencing homelessness that don't have cars, and so they can bring their tent or whatever sort of structure they've got to sleep in to these sites and get some relief and be able to sleep in peace.
Amen to that, Michael. Well,
Michael, you make it sound so wonderful, like it's going to happen, and I have great hope that is the case. But I've been spending a lot of time reading the proposed ordinances and the information about our county having a shelter crisis, and I really hope that we are able to see that vision brought to fruition in spite of all of the bureaucratic things that we have to go through to make it possible to even begin to create some opportunities in terms of meeting the requirements for this or that or the other thing. So I want to applaud you and Mary Milner and Director Ford and all the people who've been working so hard for so long with us sort of speaking in your ear continuously and encouraging all of that, and speaking on behalf of the things that you've worked so hard for to make these alternatives possible. You guys have worked so hard. I don't have enough ways to say thank you.
Well, yeah, I'm really honored to be working with you, Nezzie. You're a great inspiration for me and for the whole team that we've got here working on this. And one of the things that's really important is, the county has had an allowance for setting up emergency shelters on the books now for more than 10 years, and it hasn't happened. And part of the reason is because we haven't had the political will and the resources to make it happen. But then another part of it is that it often requires a permitting permit review process that involves public hearings, and that's a source of it ends up derailing projects when you have these public hearings because the decision makers are swayed by neighbors that don't want the facility in their backyard, these emergency shelter facilities in their backyards. And we all say that all of the time, and therefore none of these things get built. And one of the things that's happening with this ordinance is we are allowing these facilities to be set up without a requirement for a public hearing, for one. And then we're also trying to drive down the cost of providing these things by setting up these kind of standard plans that people can submit. They can just get a copy of one of these standard plans and say, yeah, I agree to do all of these things in this that are listed in this plan, and submit that, and we can approve the facility based on that agreement. And not only that, but the number of sites are expanding. We're allowing these sites to be in more different areas, different zones. We have this term of zones that that every property in Humboldt.County has a certain zone that it fits into. We're increasing the number of zones that allow these safe parking and safe shelter sites, and then we're also allowing them to occur on sites that are developed with existing churches. And the idea is that the existing churches have this infrastructure and this mission to help those that are less fortunate than others, and so they're just such a good fit, I think, for providing this service in a way that the government hasn't developed the resources for, hasn't had the resources for it, or the political will sometimes gets in the way as well. And so we're trying to tackle this problem in a variety of ways with this these new ordinances, and it's just what we're proposing at this time. We've circulated it for public review to a lot of providers and to other county agencies, but the public hearing hasn't happened yet. That's going to happen on February 3rd. The Planning Commission is scheduled to open the public hearing on it, and then after the Planning Commission holds public hearings on it, the Board of Supervisors will hold public hearings on it, and so what we're proposing may change through that process, and hopefully it gets better as a result of that work that is going to occur in this public sphere, and we'll come out of this in a couple of months with this new allowance for safe parking and safe shelter sites. So stay tuned. We're excited.
I have a question, Michael, and this, I don't know how much of a wrench this puts into things, but in these ordinances, if somebody's going to do a project, it seems like they should be in the throes of figuring that out at this point, because the ordinances say specifically that these are pilot projects and they will end specifically on in July 23, I think it is, and that's not a lot of time. It's 18 months is in the legislation, but I'm wondering how we're going through all of this process. Is there the possibility of that date being extended based on when this actually gets formalized?
Yeah, that is definitely that's at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors. They are the ones that are have agreed to set up this pilot program. It's an 18-month program, like you say, and so that doesn't start. It hasn't started yet, and so whenever the board takes action on it, that's when the 18 months will begin. And one of the alternatives that we're going to be presenting to both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors is, maybe we don't need this to be just a pilot program. Maybe we can just have the Board of Supervisors authorize it and have kind of a feedback loop for them to deauthorize it if it creates more problems than it solves.
I know this may not be the appropriate arena, and please feel free to say no, save it for the Planning Commission, but I'm very curious what distinguishes the coastal from the inland ordinance. I know coastal is a huge thing, but it seemed to me also that because the coastal one requires the signing off or certified by the Coastal Commission, and there's also coastal development stuff. How is that compatible with I guess if it turns out not to be a pilot, there's not an issue, but I was just curious about how that process can actually be efficient or effective, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
Yeah, the county has these two different areas that have these two different zoning ordinances that apply. We've got the inland areas and then the coastal areas. And so when we are putting forward a proposal like this, we need to have both ordinances modified, both the inland and the coastal. And for the ordinances that occur in the coastal area, the Coastal Commission, the state agency that is called the Coastal Commission, has the ultimate authority to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and they're reviewing the ordinance based on its consistency with the Coastal Act. And the ordinance doesn't take effect until the Coastal Act or the Coastal Commission makes that certification. And so we're going to transmit the ordinance to the Coastal Commission for certification, but that's not going to happen right away. That's going to take months and maybe up to a year before the Coastal Commission signs off on it. And so we'll have this kind of strange regulatory framework where the inland zoning ordinance is teed up, it's ready to go, ready to be used, but the coastal ordinance isn't there yet. And then, a year later, the coastal ordinance will come online, and hopefully the inland ordinance is still in effect, so we can have, comprehensive countywide allowances for these safe parking sites.
That's a very interesting thing to grapple with.
Yeah, no, all the complexity. Thank you, Michael, for helping describe that as a supervising planner, and you have a real awareness of the zones of all of Humboldt County. It's really a pleasure to have you address these issues and explain some of those bureaucratic steps that it takes. So I'm hearing clearly that if and when the Board of Supervisors decides to establish these zones, then it might be 18 months before it could sunset if it's only optional. You are saying that it could just be an ongoing program. And you also noted that the hearing on these issues with safe camping and safe parking zones being established will be before the Planning Commission on February 3rd, if I heard you correctly, Michael Richardson. I wonder, what is the best way that our listeners can share their comments with your department, or would you recommend that they approach their supervisor?
We've got a web page. If you go to Humboldt.gov.org, that's the county's web page, and then you can just search for safe parking ordinance. And we've got a web page set up that includes Mary Milner's email address, and she's the one that's kind of spearheading this effort. Just a big shout out to her. She's done all the heavy lifting. She really should be the one that you're talking to, but I'm here, so I apologize for that. But nonetheless, she's the one that is going to be taking all of the comments to the Planning Commission and making the presentations and doing all the work, really.
Well, thank you, Michael, for being with us, and maybe we can talk with Mary in a future program. Also, Nezzie Wade, the president of AHHA, would be welcome again, and we'll see if we can get our Southern Humboldt housing advocates on the bullhorn then, too. So, Michael, did I hear you correctly that people could just reach out to Mary or look at a project webpage?
Yeah, it's the Safe Parking webpage, and Mary Milner is the assigned planner on this project, and her email address is provided on that webpage.
Wonderful. Thank you for giving our listeners that option and this background information, Michael. And Nezzie, as you're leading AHHA's movement to support the houseless on the ground, I wanted to see if there's anything you want people to know about if they could volunteer with you or if you need donations to support your nonprofit.
Well, absolutely. We would love to have anyone come and volunteer with us. We have committees that people can serve on, our site selection, our projects and proposals. We have a General Assembly committee, which is not meeting now, which has made it extremely difficult for us to stay in contact with the community because we are an all are welcome organization. So we had public meetings once a month that we are not having during COVID. But people can contact us by going to our website, which is www.ahhha.humco or ahhha-humco.org, and get lots of information on our shower program if they want to volunteer there. We also, we rely on community support all the way along. So donations of items we need for our caravan, which could be hygiene products, clothing, and donations, of course. We do a donor drive at the end of the year every year, and we really appreciate this community. We apply for all the local grants. We've been applying for grants, and we've done very well in this last year to continue to build up our services. And we have a couple of positions open right now with the organization for a community outreach worker and also a shower program coordinator. And we always have interest in backup drivers for the caravan. But if you would like to contribute, you can go to our webpage and do it via PayPal, or you can come by an operation. Our schedule of when we have services is online, and it would be great for you to see our operation in action and boots on the ground. We do a lot of direct outreach to our houseless population.
Well, on behalf of KMUD Public Affairs, I want to give a real bow and thanks, gratitude to Nezzie Wade and AHHA, the Affordable Homeless Housing Alternatives, and also to Michael Richardson, the county supervising planner, who's joined us today to talk about this point-in-time count. And folks, if you want to sign up and help people at 7 a.m. tomorrow, you can call 211, and staff can help you sign up. That's it, 211. But it's now 6 p.m., and I should let you go, folks. Take care out there.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.